I was consulting with a man about 10 years ago now in Melbourne, right down the bottom of Australia. I said to him, "What do you do for work?" He said, "I'm a private investigator." I said, "So am I." We should all be private investigators, investigating why these things are so, and we should all be our own doctor. Because only you know how you feel, only you know what you've been through, and only you know how your body responds or reacts. And a very important part of being your own doctor is listening. Have you ever been to a doctor that won't listen? It's very frustrating. Don't be that doctor. You must listen. Listen because the body will speak to you. And if you don't listen to the first whisper, the body will start screaming. And when it starts screaming, it's doing damage. So listen and respond. So whenever there's an illness, the three things you look at: history, because history indicates why these things are so. Symptoms. Medically, symptoms are treated. But when symptoms are treated with a drug, it just takes away the voice. Now, in the 1970s, I had a little car which was a Fiat, and whenever the oil would get low, this blue light would start flashing. It was very annoying. So what if I get a hammer and smash that blue light? Then that annoying light is not there anymore. I'm not a mechanic. How long will I be driving for before the engine seizes up? You've got to listen. You've got to respond to the symptoms. So even though most drugs just silence the symptoms, when you're treating someone naturally, you're working with the healing powers that God put into that body. You do treat symptoms, because symptoms are the body's voice. It's saying, "Excuse me, I need a little bit of help over here." And then as you apply simple, natural remedies, adjusting, implementing the true remedies, the Sustain Me principles, then you watch for this, the body's response. And the body will go, "No, that's not doing much," or the body will say, "I like that." And if the body says, "I like that," that's where you go. That's your guideline. And remember, I'm going to give you 4 words here. The first word is I. I am the master of my destiny. I'm the one that chooses what I do or what I don't do with my body. The human body will heal itself. Here's the 2-letter word. If you give it the right conditions. And we've seen many people totally conquer from diabetes, type 1 and type 2. And then the 3-letter word, why. If the body's not responding, then we ask why. And it could possibly be the 4-letter word, time. The Bible says in Galatians 6 verse 9, "Let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we will reap if we faint not." Most people don't get sick overnight, and they don't get better overnight. Have you noticed? Sometimes it's 20, 30 years in the making. The good news is, it's not 20, 30 years to heal. But it might take a year or 2. You've got to give it a little bit of time. And the other verse that you can give to encourage people with the time factor is found in Hebrews chapter 10, verse 35. It says, "Cast not away therefore thy confidence, in the which is great recompense of reward." Don't cast away your confidence in God. Don't cast away your confidence in this amazing body with an inbuilt ability to heal itself. Cast not away therefore thy confidence, in the which is great recompense of reward. For ye have need of patience. Did you hear that? For ye have need of patience, in that after you have done the will of God, you might receive the promise. For yet a little while, and he that shall come will come, and will not tarry. Now the just shall live by faith. And if any man draw back, my soul shall have no pleasure in him. But we are not of them that draw back unto perdition, but of them that believe in the saving of the soul. I'd like to add another one there. But of them that believing in the healing of the body. Yep. And Jesus come to save not just the soul, but the emotions, the mental, the physical. He treats us as a whole. And we're all connected. So let us now go deep. Let us go deep into the human body, to the inside workings of the cell. Proverbs 14 verse 6 states that knowledge is easy to him that understands. I want to take you inside the CBD, the central business district of the human body, the inside workings of the cell. I want to take you inside, because when you understand how this process works, you begin to have the knowledge on what the body needs to prevent diabetes and also to heal from diabetes. So I'm going to begin by showing you common foods that people eat today and what happens inside the cell. And we've come to a time on planet Earth where human beings are eating a huge amounts of carbohydrates. Let's have a look. Bread. Bread shops abound. You go into a supermarket, there's a whole aisle devoted to bread. And obviously it's a popular food. Cereal, there's a whole aisle devoted to cereal. And Dr. Kellogg would have a pink fit if he could see what Dr. Kellogg's cornflakes are made out of today. Now the third one, I'm going to say one word, but I actually could add 20 words, and that'd fill the whole board. We're going to say cakes, etc. So this takes into consideration cookies, croissants, muffins, biscuits. Well, you know, we call cookies biscuits. You call them cookies. So when Australians come to America and see a sign that says biscuits and gravy, we just think, whoa, what do these people eat? So we think like your cookies with gravy on top, but I think a biscuit is a scone or a roll. Yeah. So in there we've also got pretzels, donuts, so you can see what I mean, pasties, pies, all the pastries. So we just say cakes, etc. Also pizza. As a fifth generation Australian, Scottish descent, a child of the 60s, I didn't even know what pizza was. I didn't know what pasta was. What did we eat? We had sausages or chops, mashed potatoes, frozen peas or beans every single night of the week, except for Sunday when Mum did a roast lamb. Rice, we never had rice either. I don't think I had rice until I was about 18. Potatoes, yes, we did have potatoes every single day. And I still make potatoes every single day because my husband is an Irishman and potatoes are important. And last and certainly least in nutritive value is the pure crystallized acid that's been extracted from the sugarcane plant. Would you agree with me? That people have become high carbohydrate consumers, and I don't think anyone chose to eat this way. I think it's just convenience. I have ladies say to me, Barbara, you don't understand, I don't have time to cook. I don't cook. I'm just too busy. And so when people are hungry, what do they grab? But you know what's interesting? I lived in a rainforest for 12 years, raised my children up in the rainforest, and everything we ate, I made. I made everything. And so this was not fast food when you're making it yourself, is it? Down on the farm, that's your slow food. What's your fast food? Fruits and vegetables. It's just, apple, eat apple. And because people are so busy today and they reach for the convenience, they reach for the fast, we've actually lost conception, really, of the way that we should be eating. All of these foods break down in the gastrointestinal tract to a singular structure called glucose. Glucose now is in the blood. Did you know your gastrointestinal tract is a hollow tube, and anything that goes into the hollow tube is not part of you or me until it gets broken down to glucose, then it goes absorbed into the blood. And the Bible says in Leviticus 17:11 that the life of the flesh is in the blood. And something that makes it life is the nutrients from the food that we eat. So it's broken down in the gastrointestinal tract to glucose. It gets absorbed into the blood. Now it goes on the M1 main highway, portal vein, straight to liver. And then the liver determines where it goes. And the first place that it will send the glucose is to the cell. So the glucose goes into the cell under the action of insulin. Insulin's the hormone that unlocks the door to allow the glucose into the cell. So let's draw our pancreas and have a look at what it's doing. The pancreas lives under your left rib. Your liver lives under your right rib. And your pancreas releases two hormones into the blood. One is insulin. And insulin's role is to get the blood sugar level in the blood down by taking the glucose into the cell. It releases another hormone, and that's glucagon. And glucagon is the hormone that's released if blood sugar levels go too low. It's released to get the blood sugar level up again. So can you see that God, in his wisdom and his mercy, when he created the pancreas, it's the organ that balances our blood sugar levels. And when everything's working well in the body, these two hormones work very nicely together. But something happens that is causing a disruption, and that's what we're going to look at. And so the first place that the liver sends the glucose is into the cell. It goes into the cell and it goes through 20 little chemical reactions, or 20-step pathway. It's called the glycolytic pathway, and it delivers to us 2 units of energy. The end result of the 20-step pathway is a chemical form of glucose called pyruvate. And pyruvate, as the chemical form of glucose, gets fed into what's often called the powerhouse of the cell. It's the Krebs cycle inside of the mitochondria. Only an 8-step pathway, but this 8-step pathway delivers to us a very impressive 36 units of energy. Oxygen makes the difference. The 20-step pathway does not use oxygen. It produces energy by the process of fermentation, whereas the 8-step pathway, because of the presence of oxygen, it gives us 36 units of energy. But there's still a lot of glucose left over. Only so much can be sent to the cell. So now the liver stores some, and this storage is called glycogen. And it's like a little bunch of grapes sitting inside the muscle cell. And these little, each grape, so to speak, is a molecule of glucose. It's an amazing process. So glycogen is a name given to quick-release glucose store, already sitting in your muscle cell. That's why you do not need to eat before you exercise. So this morning, I looked very hard, but I couldn't find a park. I followed some trees, but there's no park near me. But I went round and round and round, and I had quite a good walk. And I did not need to eat before I walked, because I've got glycogen stores already sitting in my muscle cell. And when I started to move my body, especially when I found a hill, and I needed glucose, the body just plucks the glucose, feeds it down the pathways. Plucks, feeds it down the pathways. Plucks it, feeds it down the pathways. And because I'm moving the body, because I'm working faster and faster, my breathing is getting deeper and I'm getting more oxygen, so I'm getting more energy. That's why it is true that you will receive more energy than you expend on your morning walk. I know one young man, he's a friend of mine, he he just got some very bad news about his wife was having an affair. He said to me, I work all day, so I've got 2 little boys to care for. He said, I've made an appointment with a personal trainer 3 nights a week. He said, I go to that personal trainer and it's the last thing I want to go to. I'm just done, but I've paid. He said, but I come out physically exhausted and emotionally revived. Because as he works out and breathes deeper, he's getting more oxygen, revived. When every single one of your 75 trillion cells has enough oxygen to get down to there, you're going to be jumping out of your skin. Sounds good? Let's move on with the journey of the glucose. On a high carbohydrate diet, we've still got glucose left over because only so much can be stored as glycogen. And so now the body stores it in the most amazing fuel depot in the body. It's called fat cells. And on this high carbohydrate diet, what's happening to the average American? They're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Fat doesn't make you fat. So this is the 3rd place that the liver specifically sends the glucose, is to be stored as fat. As I go through my description of diabetes, what happens in the cell is of the utmost importance. So a few things that are contributing to diabetes today, and it's basically the breakfast of a nation has the 3 main things that are causing diabetes. So what would that be? Let's say the average would be cereal.